In this video, I'm going to reveal to you 5 water filtration techniques you need to know for a survival prepping situation. Now, when it comes to being prepared, water is life. If you don't have water in place and you're not drinking water that's clean, everything else can cascade into a whole lot more problems. But the reality, the challenge is different situations require different techniques. And so we're going to talk about not only those techniques in this video, but which ones are right for which situation. All of that is coming up. Okay guys, so water is life. If you don't have water in place and have it healthy and clean in a survival situation, this is what can happen. You can end up drinking something like this in front of you. Now, you may not always see all of these problems. That's the reality. You may be drinking what appears to be clean water, but in reality, you just got sick and you just cascaded into a whole lot more problems. And so in this video, we're going to talk about this. We're going to look later in the video at which technique is right for which situation. But you need to be prepared. You need to be thinking through this. Let's dive into this topic of how safe is your water really, looking at these 5 top water purification techniques. As always on this channel, we look at the Reddit thread. So we're going to learn from the community wisdom of what's already out there. In this particular video, we looked at this survival thread and answering this question, what you didn't know about water filtration. What emerged from the threads is interesting. And so we see here that the top recommended water filtration methods are various, but at the top of the list is boiling, and then sort of a more of a natural charcoal filtration technique. And then there's some other specific options for filtering. We're going to dive into talking about especially these top 2, boiling, and then more of a organic way to do it. So let's look first at boiling water as an option for preparing your water. So pros when it comes to using boiling water as your primary way to filter and prepare water for drinking in a survival situation, it's highly effective. It's going to work. And so that's really good news, because being able to boil water is a pretty low cost, low tech approach, and most of us know how to do that. So no special equipment's required beyond just a heat source. You got to get the heat source, but other than that, you're good. But there are some cons, and it does require fuel. It does require a heat source. You may not always have that. It's also time consuming, and it uses a lot of water because of evaporation. So those are the cons. You're going to have to process through, do you have the time to actually boil water, and do you have the heat to be able to get that job done? And then also you're going to have to wait after it's been boiled to come down to a temperature that you can actually drink it. So boiling water is an option, but there are other options like chemical purification. In this case, you've got on your screen some tablets that can be super helpful for adding to water to prepare it for clean drinking, right? The pros of this is going to be lightweight, easy to carry. It's a quick process compared to boiling. And so there's a lot to be said for the chemical purification option. Just carry it in your pocket, carry it in your bag, you're ready to go. But the problem is chemicals can leave an unpleasant taste. And so they don't always, the water you're going to drink, it's going to get the job done. You're going to be able to metabolize it and survive, but it's not going to taste great. And it's not always effective against all types of contaminants, especially chemicals, heavy metals. So that's chemical purification. All right, so a third option is solar disinfection. And around the world, especially in more impoverished areas, this is a popular option, right? So it's cost effective, meaning that it's inexpensive to use, and it's a renewable energy source. So it's just using the sun to get the job done, and it's simple to implement with minimal equipment. You lay out the water bottles in the sun, and it's got to be laid out with enough time for it to actually work. And so this is going to use the UV light from the sun, and you're going to want to use clear plastic bottles. Now the problem there is that's going to release some of that plastic into the water, but if you give it about 6 hours, enough time for that to actually disinfect the water, that can be a great option. The problem is it's weather dependent, and so it's ineffective on cloudy days or at night, obviously. And it's going to require several hours to be effective, so you've got to be prepared. Are you willing to put in that time to allow the sun to do that? And if you're on the move, that's not the greatest option. Okay, so let's talk about filtration systems. Now we're on the more pricier side, but obviously this is going to be the best option for making sure your water is clean, remove all particles, many pathogens, and there are portable options. I have here on the screen a less portable option, but there's many, like you can get a life straw that is a more portable option as a filtration system. The cons are it needs to be replaced periodically, so whether you get a life straw or whether you get a built-in system, either way it's going to cost more, and it's a higher initial cost, right? Okay, let's talk about the natural filtration methods. In the Reddit threads, this is where the charcoal piece comes in. You can begin to create your own filtration method. And this is helpful because it can be constructed from natural materials around you. So if you're on the go and you need some way to filter water, you can do it. And especially if you've taken time right now to begin to learn how can you build a water filter from the things that are all around you. And that's going to be educational and help you to understand the process so that you can recreate that in a situation where you might need it. Okay, but the problem is that's going to be less effective at removing the pathogens compared to other modern options. And this is also going to require construction of it. So you're going to have the things that you need to be able to construct that natural filtration option. Okay, so moving along, let's look now at how these stack up against each other. So each of these options are great for different situations. And so even options that are even less effective might be more helpful in a situation where you've got to make do with what you've got, like the natural filtration options. So you can see here on your screen, if we weigh cost versus effectiveness versus portability and ease of use, different options are going to come out on top for different situations. So let's look at different situations. So for hiking, when it comes down to it, you're going to desire for it to be super effective and portable, right? It needs to be portable as a top factor in choosing. And so I would highly recommend the filtration system of a life straw as your main option for hiking, and then secondarily a chemical purification or just tablets that you can bring along in that survival situation. One of those options is going to be both portable and do well. And now there might be a little bit more higher cost on the front end, especially for the filtration option, but that's going to be the ideal for you. Okay, so for emergencies, so now we're talking a short-term emergency, I would recommend chemical purification tablets because there's a low cost, they're portable, meaning that if you need to get going, you need to go somewhere, it's an immediate option that you can take with you. And then secondarily, the option of boiling water, which is going to be great for any of these situations, but it's especially great in an emergent kind of context. So couple more. So long term. So now we're talking about if you end up needing to think through how do you purify water for a long-term situation. Boiling is just going to be an ongoing, easy way to handle this, especially if you don't have renewable resources for filtration or you can't get ongoing chemical purification. Solar could be another option, but boiling is going to be the top option for this. And then building your own natural filtration method, which may have lower effectiveness, but can be helpful for different kinds of use over the long term. Last one we might look at would be international. So if you have any plans to travel internationally, here the main factor you're going to be thinking through is like it's got to be really effective. You don't want to be in a situation where you've got to have clean water and you can't get that. And so whatever you're going to choose needs to be highly effective if you're on the go and especially internationally. And so coming up with that filtration system, especially a life straw, is going to be a really key way to make sure you're prepared for that. And then chemical purification, again, because it's super portable, is going to be a really helpful option. So each of these options has got different advantages and disadvantages that you may want to think through when it comes down to being prepared for any potential situation. And so I hope this has been helpful for you to identify what are some top options so that you can make sure that you have clean water. But then also, as I will say on this channel again and again, what we've got to learn to do is to learn to think and to analyze the situation, because being prepared is not just about having the right gear, but being able to think in terms of what is in front of me and what do I need to choose so that I pick the right option for the right situation.